Terrorism in France refers to the terrorist attacks that have targeted the country and its population during the 20th and 21st centuries. Terrorism, in this case, is much related to the country's history, international affairs and political approach. Legislation has been set up by lawmakers to fight terrorism in France. CBC News reported in December 2018 that the number of people killed in terrorist attacks in France since 2015 was 249, with the number of wounded at 928. France, its first occurrences with religious extremism in the 1980s due to French involvement in the Lebanese Civil War. In the 1990s, a series of attacks on French soil were executed by the armed Islamic group of Algeria. In the 1990 to 2010 time span, France experienced repeated attacks linked to international jihadist movements. Le Monde reported on 26 July 2016 that Islamist terrorism had caused 236 dead in France in the preceding 18-month period. In the 2015 to 2018 time span in France, 249 people been killed in terrorist attacks and 928 wounded in a total of 22 terrorist attacks. The deadly attacks in 2015 in France changed the issue of Islamist radicalization from a security threat to also constitute a social problem. Prime Minister François Hollande and Prime Minister Manuel Valls saw the fundamental values of the French Republic being challenged and called them attacks against secular Enlightenment and democratic values along with what makes us who we are. Although jihadists in the 2015 onward timeframe legitimized their attacks with a narrative of reprisal for France's participation in the international coalition fighting the Islamic State, Islamic terrorism in France has other, deeper and older causes. The main reasons France suffers frequent attacks are, in no particular order. France has a modern history of right-wing terrorism that dates back to the middle of the 20th century. Historically, right-wing terrorism was tied to rage over the loss of France's colonial possessions in Africa, particularly Algeria. In 1961, the organization Army Secrète or OAS, a right-wing terrorist group that protested Algerian independence from France, launched a bomb attack on board a Strasbourg-Paris train which killed 28 people. On 14 December 1973, the far-right Charles Martel group orchestrated a bomb attack at the consulate of Algeria, killing 4 people and injuring 20. The group targeted mostly Algerian targets several more times. In the town of Toulon, a far-right extremist group called SOS France existed. On 18 August 1986, 4 members were driving a car carrying explosives, apparently in an attempt to bomb the offices of SOS Racism. However, it exploded while they were still in it, killing all 4 of them. In more recent history, far-right extremism in France has been fueled by the rise of anti-immigrant far-right political movements. Neo-Nazi members of the French and European Nationalist Party were responsible for a pair of anti-immigrant terror bombings in 1988. Sonacotra hostels in Cannes-sur-Mer and Cannes were bombed, killing Romanian immigrant George Iordachescu and injuring 16 people, mostly Tunisians, in an attempt to frame Jewish extremists for the Cannes-sur-Mer bombing. The terrorists left leaflets bearing Stars of David and the name Meseder at the scene, with the message, to destroy Israel. Islam has chosen the sword. For this choice, Islam will perish. On 28 May 2008, members of the neo-Nazi Nomad 88 group fired with machine guns at people from their car in Saint-Michel-sur-Orge. In 2015, a 26-year-old Moroccan man known as a member of the radical Islamist movement attempted to open fire with an AK-47 assault rifle while on a high-speed train 1 hour from Paris. He was quickly subdued by 3 United States servicemen who were on holiday. C. 2015 Thalys train attack. Towards the end of March 2016, police arrested a Paris citizen named Raider Cricket, and upon searching his apartment, they discovered 5 assault rifles, a number of handguns, and an amount of chemical substances that could be used to make explosives. Cricket was convicted in absentia by a Belgian court in a 2015 case involving Abdelahmed Aboud. Under French law, any grave act of violence committed with intent to seriously disturb public order through intimidation or terror is an act of terrorism. The public prosecutor decides which cases will be investigated as acts of terrorism. Writing in Le Figaro, attorney Giles William Goldnadel characterized the public prosecutor's decision not to investigate a crime, murder of Sarah Halimi, as terrorism, as purely and simply ideological, asserting that the killer, who recited verses from the Quran before breaking into an apartment and murdering a Jewish woman, had the profile of a radical Islamist. And yet somehow there is a resistance to call a spade a spade. Sarah Halimi's murder was heard by neighbors in her building and in neighboring building over an extended period of time. Neighbors also saw the killer throw